what's really interesting is that the higher your tolerance to uncertainty, the lower your anxiety when you're facing
Wow.
challenges. And we see that across the board, across many studies. So if you can cultivate that tolerance to uncertainty, you're going to be able to face those challenges, to navigate uncertainty with less anxiety.
Wow. Okay. What would help people build some of those tolerances?
A lot of it comes down to showing to yourself that you're okay when you find yourself in a situation that is uncertain. So actually navigating uncertainty whenever you find yourself facing a challenge, asking yourself, what would it look like to approach this from a place of curiosity instead of anxiety? And then trying something new, taking a small risk. When you do that over and over again, and you see on the other side that whatever the outcome, you're okay. You survived. You're teaching your brain that there is no risk of death, which is the worst outcome for any living organism. There is no risk of death when you take those small risks, when you make those small bets. This is why my book is called Tiny Experiments, because I believe they're the best way to train yourself, to show your brain that it is okay to take those small risks.
I think it's well to prove to yourself, right, to gain the confidence as you go through those experiences. Because again, anything around the psychology of confidence and self-efficacy, your self-belief in something that you do, the best way we know to build it is through experience, is through having positive experiences. But again, it's that, am I okay with taking the small step, the small experiment, the tiny experiment, and get some success there, and then go the next one, and then go next one, rather than I think everyone just wants, again, shoots for the highlight reel, shoots for it. I'm going to be a professional, and we see this in sport, right? We see this in a performance domain, because sport. I always say sport is exaggerated format of everyday events, and it's you see these athletes doing incredible things, and then a young player will go to try and do this or slam dunk like LeBron James, miss, not get it, and be like, "Okay, I'm not LeBron. This is not me." And it's like, dude, you didn't even start to build your leg strength to get anywhere near that. So yeah, I think that's how we can start to build the confidence, right? To feel like this is the direction we want to go in.
Yeah, and also knowing that there is not one definition of success. To your point, just sharing those examples, i- that's the so I call this the maximalist brain. It's really this tendency to feel like whatever we do, it has to be big, it has to be impressive, it has to have a massive impact, and it has to be our one true passion. And anything less than that is failure. Anything less than that means that your life has no meaning. But there are so many ways to be successful. There are so many ways to live a meaningful life. It doesn't have to look like LeBron James or whoever. It can be your definition of success. And I think something that's really useful to develop as well, which to me is part of having this experimental mindset, is what psychologists call self complexity. Self complexity is based on the number of identities and ambitions that you have in life. So instead of having only one ambition, one identity, which would be very low self complexity, saying, I just want to be the best athlete in the world. I just want to be a great athlete, and that's it. And when that particular part of your life and your identity doesn't work out, then you completely lose your sense of self. Versus high self complexity, when you say, I want to be a great athlete, but I also want to be a great dad. I want to be a great friend. I want to be a great, whatever, graphic designer, if that's your hobby, or great cook at home. I want to make great meals for my friends. I want to. Then when any of these parts of your life don't work out in the way you want to, and we know most of these things will have seasons, right? There might be parts of your life where your love life is going great and others where it's not necessarily the case. where your career as an athlete is going to go great and others where not so. Maybe you'll hurt yourself or something like that. When you have self complexity, you don't have this complete collapse of your identity because you're not just that one thing. You're many other things at the same time.
I have an exercise that I have used and I now use with people that I coach and mentor. It's called human being, human doing. And
Mm.
it's very simple that you get a piece of paper and you create 2 columns and you put human being and human doing. And the first, you actually start with the last bit first. So you start with the human doing first, and you write down all your roles and responsibilities in the world, right? So you put down that you're a brother, a son, a daughter, a friend, a mother, a father. But then you put down things like you're maybe an entrepreneur, a student, an athlete, but then other things like your hobbies and your interests. So like you're a musician, a dancer, a surfer, a hiker, whatever it might be. You put all of the things that you do, your roles, your responsibilities in the world that you'd have. And on the other side, you go to human being. And these are the characteristics that you either know you have or you feel people might describe you as, or maybe you even aspire to be like. So it could be curious, it could be adventurous, could be enthusiastic, passionate, driven, hardworking, all the things that you want. Put them all down. And then the cool thing is that you look at those 2 lists and then you draw lines between the ones that you think best describe that attribute that you want to do. And I have found that to first help athletes that I work with, right? So people that are in sport, that they're sort of sitting there going, well, I don't know the type of athlete that I am. I play this sport, but I only define myself based on the results that I get and the outcomes that I have. And I'm also wanting to be like this athlete over here because I admire them. I want to follow their footsteps. But then they kind of lose their real authenticity in what they do because, again, if the outcome doesn't go their way, then they're like, oh, I'm no good. I'm awful. But if they had to just literally say, I'm a hardworking athlete, I'm a driven athlete, or I'm a curious athlete, a venturous athlete, then they know that they can still do that regardless of result. And this comes back to this, what you're talking about of being able to have so much complexity in what you are, but actually there's kind of beauty in that complexity, I think. Because yeah, if one of those fails, so for example, if being the athlete fails, then they're like, well, I'm still a friend. I'm still got surfing. I've still got music to do. I've still got, maybe I'm a student and I can bring that to life. And I know that experience because I've gone through it, having been ripped out of professional sport through injury. And at 26, you're sort of, well, who am I? What am I about? But very fortunately, I had been working on other parts of me. I'd embraced mindfulness as this self-discovery. And then you find I can bring value to the world through other things that I do, more who I am. And actually you find that your value is in that human being, like, because the human doing's not guaranteed.
I love that. I kind of want to make my students try it. It's amazing.
Go for it.
And what I love about it is that it is both about self-discovery, but then it's immediately applicable whenever you find yourself in one of those situations where you start questioning your own sense of self and who you are and what value you bring to the world whenever you're faced with a challenge, and you can go back to that. And I think those are the best tools, the ones where there's an aspect of knowing yourself better. And again, that goes back to information versus knowledge. There's true knowledge being generated here that you can immediately apply.
If you enjoyed the clip of the episode, then YouTube has picked the very best video for you to watch right next, and it's put it up here.